With automated attacks increasing, how can we keep up? Could the over-automation of processes actually create inefficiencies? Is automation going to eliminate jobs, especially at entry levels like Tier 1 analysts? These are common concerns in the cybersecurity industry. Hello everyone, I'm your host, Yakub Desai, automation leader at CloudGuard. My focus is on architecting our automation roadmap, using automation as a tool for efficiency, not as a replacement for our analysts. Today we're diving into a pressing topic in cybersecurity, automation. There's a fear that automation leads to complacency, masks inefficiencies, and can create a false sense of security. Joining me to unpack these critical issues is Sean Tickle, the Cyber Services Director at Littlefish. Sean oversees their cyber division, managing a comprehensive service portfolio, consultancy, and incident response. His approaches have been instrumental in driving growth at Littlefish, and I'm excited to have him here today. So, whether you're a seasoned cybersecurity professional or just starting out, there's plenty to learn in this episode. So, Sean, automation, let's get into it.
I think a lot of people fire hose or use it as a buzzword when they talk about automation. Oh yeah, we automate everything, and machine learning and Gen AI. And it's like, well, okay, let's use these things where applicable, not just where you feel like it. If we're going to jump in and talk about pain points, that is the number one great for me. And that, I think we sit in conversations and we know, hopefully we know what we're talking about in terms of automation being a tool that we use in order to, and this is my personal preference, as a tool that we use in order to be quicker, leaner, faster, smarter for our security analysts. We're not replacing those security analysts. We're giving them the information or even taking containment actions through automation based off our customers' risk appetites and based off what we want to do to mitigate and contain situations like ASAP. Which is great. It's not there to do everything. It's not there to do the investigation for us. It's not there to provide context and a surrounding investigation or establish root cause and, patch those holes and all the usual stuff that comes with that. And it can assist, but I don't, I think, as well, Jakub, in our time that when we discuss automation with anyone, be it internally or with clients, there needs to be an expectation that it's a powerful tool, but it is a tool. It's not a be all and end all.
Yeah, it's not a replacement, certainly. I totally agree with you there. I mean, when it comes to automation, I don't look at it as I'm automating the SOC or I'm automating this particular workflow. We're automating processes. By doing so, it's like you say, it's a powerful tool for the analyst to help them reach their conclusions quicker.
Yeah.
So it's not about just let's build this automation to replace X, Y, and Z. It's more about let's build this automation to help X, Y, and Z more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And we are mitigating human error because human error is a thing. It happens to the best of us, regardless of how experienced or trained we are. There are going to be times where human error kicks in, and if we can mitigate that to a certain extent and give our analysts more breathing room to carry out a follow investigation or really get to the bare bones of something, or even take additional containment actions, for example, then great. That's what we want to do. That's where I see automation going. I don't confuse it with machine learning. I don't confuse it with Gen AI. I see it as like you've just said there, I think the nail on the head is we're automating processes. We're establishing processes through learning our customers' environments and their expectations and their appetites. And then we are taking those processes and we are automating what we can in order to streamline the process. And we are ensuring that any manual actions or anything like that needs to be done is adhered to within our SLAs and our human resource as effectively as possible. That's where I see it happening. And we've been banging the automation drum for a fair few years now. And I think when we talk about how passionate we are around that, it is because not only are we taking the the stress off the clients and our analysts more than anything. But we need to fundamentally look at, well, if we are doing this, then where's that saving going? Because there is a saving. Let's be honest. There's a brass tacks in. Okay, we're going to spend a hell of a lot of effort putting these automations in place and understanding your environment and all the rest of it, and we're going to leverage those efficiencies over a longer period of time, and that's amazing. But is that a saving that we as businesses factor into our costings? Is that a saving that we factor into our recruitment and everything in between? And I think that's especially people like Littlefish and CloudGuard, we're probably further along in that journey than some. And those are the sorts of questions I think we need to be asking ourselves. And there's other questions that other organizations that may not be far ahead on that journey that need to ask themselves, and what would they envision if they were to adopt this sort of stuff?
No, that's a very good point, because automation brings benefit to a lot of people, but in different ways, like you say. So for a SOC, it means a lot of the legwork, the repeatable stuff is done for you. It's ready, it's available, which means you're getting through your queues quicker. You've got time to actually go off and do threat hunting and move on to innovations and think about how to approach things differently. For the business, it means your analysts are spending less time, so there's more efficiency there. There's cost savings there. You don't need to hire 10 staff to run a SOC. For a large business, it's more like 5, for example. So you've got cost savings there. You've got efficiencies as well, so things happen quicker. We always talk about things like mean time to resolve and whatnot. But the reach of automation extends far beyond that. It's not just mean time to resolve an incident. It's mean time to end of process for almost everything. So there's benefits in it for everyone. Like you say, there's cost benefits, there's resourcing benefits, there's time benefits. It's a lot more than you could imagine. I guess it depends on what lens you're looking at it from, though.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I look at it as well, when we look at kind of taking those processes and automating them so we can give more time to our analysts, it then allows our analysts we invest more in our analysts. So do we want 100 tier ones working away on manual tickets again and again and again? Or do we want 50 tier 1s, 2s and 3s that have got the training and have had and a real investment that when they do need to pick something up, they're on the ball, they know what to do, they know what tools to run, it's a lot less of a, I suppose, log and flog is the word, and more of a real end-to-end service for the customer. And that only comes, those efficiencies only come through automation and other opportunities, hopefully, that are on the horizon as well. But that's where I see it going. Like, if we're not using automation to alleviate the pressure on our SOC, like, I'm shameless plug here, I'm working on a white paper around automation in SOCs. And we did a questionnaire, and we went through, what are some of the key difficulties you see and all the usual stuff. The highest response by far was, there's too many tickets, we're going to burn out. And then what's the solution? Automation. And it's so clear that that's where people want to go in terms of automation and proper tooling. Those are the two biggest things that were raised. That from a industry sector perspective, that security operations people are crying out for this. I think we need to really adopt it. We need to push forward with it, and that's across the board, really. I mean, it's easy for me to say that because it's not an easy thing to do. But hopefully people see the value in it from a senior management perspective and push this into their SOCs. Because if you don't, I think you're going to be left in an analog stage in a digital era, really, aren't you?
Yeah, and we live in a time where it's not even, you can't say it's difficult to implement the automation, because there are so many tools out there that you could use to automate things. So many. We've played with a number of tools, and They all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses. But the point is, there are so many tools at so many different price points for you to get started
Yeah.
at. In my opinion, there's no excuse not to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's not, you don't have to do the all singing, all dancing, auto containment, threat enrichment,
Yeah,
auto escalation. You can start manageable. You can start with just maybe a few automation rules in Microsoft Sentinel or a few playbooks. It doesn't need to. You don't need to boil the ocean.
start basic. Yeah, absolutely.
But even if you take out part of one alert that's generating thousands of alerts across your estates, even if you're just saving a fraction of that time, that's a big win.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when you talk to CFOs and more business orientated individuals like COOs and all the usual stuff, being able to articulate that into time, and then obviously articulate that time into cost and how much you save, is a huge win as well. And that's how we get, or that's at least how I got my board on piece with it. This is, I look at it as, this is all the great stuff we can do for our analysts and our clients. And of course, the board looks at that as well, but they also look at all this great savings we can make as well. So it's a win.
Goes back to that lens. What lens are you wearing?
100%.
So, what are some misconceptions people have about automation? I've got two. The biggest one is, it's easy. Just automate it. And I don't think, with the simpler stuff, absolutely, it's easy to automate simple things like go enrich this IP or go do this, go disable this account, for example. But when it comes to complex processes where there's a lot of decision making involved, where you think about things that as human thought comes to you naturally, right? And you can very quickly just this is right. This is what I need to do. Not usually very easy when it comes to automation. It's very, very difficult to do sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've fallen victim to that on the other end of it, with you being the more techie of us. I've fallen victim to going, well, can't we just automate that? And then I have to think back to the techie days and go, no. It's not that simple. There's going to be API calls involved potentially. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. It's not just a saw playbook and I'm having to mess around with a few connectors. But I think when people, hopefully, if you can articulate the price of putting the effort in with that automation, they can see the dividends at the end, and that's the most important piece. Like I've spoken to organisations, and everyone's on the Sentinel journey from an MSSP perspective. Everyone wants to do right by their customers. Although I do believe there's very few of us in the industry who get how to do right by our customers. We think that we'll put Sentinel in, fire hose it with a bunch of rules, log congestion, attach rules to that. Oh, look, we've had 2,000 alerts for you. Look how good we are. That's not value in my eyes.
Yeah.
Showing, okay, we've had 1,000 alerts and this is our true positive rate compared to our false positive rate. And this is how many we've automated versus manual. Those are good metrics to have. And I think people need to wake up to that.
There's some risks there though as well, isn't there? So automation can lead to complacency. One of the things we make sure we stay on top of here is tuning, for example. So if you've got, like, say, 1,000 alerts, but 90% of them are tuned, which means 100 of them a manual analyst is going to work on over the period of a month. Not too bad. But then you're looking at your metrics later and thinking there's a lot of benign or false positives there, which automation is handling, and it's hiding the fact that your detection isn't accurate. You want your detection to be as accurate or as less noisy as possible. So there are some downsides that you need to be careful of, but they're not very difficult to work around. You treat it the same as look at your ticket volumes. It's just an example, right, of one of the inefficiencies, but look at your ticket volumes, far too high. There's not that many resolving to be a true positive. Yeah. Let's go tune that. I know automation is taking care of a lot of the pain for us, but there's no reason why we shouldn't go and tune those alerts out. And the same goes with any process. Like, I guess is when you automate something, right? You can get a process end to end that's fully manual, and then there's two ways of going about doing it. You identify the process, you automate it, jobs are good, and everything's done. Or you identify the process, you identify the steps that are now automated, and then you look at how can this be reworked to make it even more efficient. So it's not just about let's go automate it, it's let's automate it, then take a look at it and rejig things to make things more efficient now. Yeah, precisely, yeah. Another misconception about automation is, I'm sure you've heard this one lots, it's going to take my job.
And like we were talking about earlier, that's just not, in my eyes at least, if people have that conception that they're going to bring in automation and it means that they can just get rid of people, that's never going to happen. And you're going to have a terrible service off the back of it. It is about empowering our analysts. It is not about replacing them. And that can be when we talk about the newer, and, again, not to confuse automation with Gen AI, but there's very clear differences. But when people talk about Gen AI, for example, they talk about productivity is going to replace X and Y, and security Copilot's going to replace X and Y. And it's the clues in the name, Copilot. It's not the pilot. It's your co-pilot. That's how they look at it, And I think that's from a marketing standpoint, that's pretty good, because that is what it's supposed to be. And it's the same with automation. It is empowerment. It's your friend that helps you do the grunt work, so you can do the high level. Okay, I need to look at this holistically, and I need to, put in my frameworks and work on my hypotheses and all the things that we did as security analysts to get where we need to go. So I think that's really important, in that it isn't here to replace people. It's like you're not going to have to bring in as many tier ones, for example, to deal with a new client, because you're going to factor in those efficiencies. You're still going to have to bring some in, though. It just means that you're not throwing a human resource problem at a potentially automated solution. That's how I look at it. And surely we want that, because, we're bringing in the people who we need, which is fine, but we're also giving them the time to develop, and we can mentor and we can train and all of those things. So we're actually making better security analysts, and not just security analysts. We're sticking in front of a ticket queue Monday to Friday. You can go in, right, okay, mine is tickets, and I'll see you later. It's actually, you still, tickets are our bread and butter at the end of the day, and we need to do that for our clients, but you're dealing with a hell of a lot less, meaning that training program we were going to put you through, or that new TTP, Texas Technical Procedures, that we found that we want to turn into a detection rule, we can get you involved in that, and you can hopefully start seeing more value in your own role, as well as everything else we're doing. I'm quite passionate about that, because I think automation can be used as that. And again, automation can be used for good. It can be used for bad. From a good perspective, being able to give our analysts more time so that we can develop them and get them in their career path, and, start them in that journey as security professionals is really important. Of course, it can be used for bad, just as we see from automated attacks and spray. We call them drive-by attacks, or, attacks of opportunity, where they'd automate POC exploit scripts or something to look for new vulnerabilities dropped. We've had a few with Microsoft. Here's a couple of new 0 days. Right, people are already scanning the internet to look for vulnerable devices. That's where automation, but again, like we said, automation's a tool. Like if they want to use it for that, they can. If they don't want to, then they'll use it to be the antithesis of that. So we'll use that script to see where we're vulnerable internally, and then we'll patch it. It can be used in the exact same manner for a completely different objective.
It's like I always say, our adversaries are using automation, and they have been for a very long time. If you think about it, we're kind of late to the game. But and they're just getting better and better at it. And the way I see it is, the only way we can fight the adversaries, if they're using automation, is using automation and doing it better than them. Gone are the days where, there'd be an exploit, and then someone gets into your network and snoops around, figures things out.
They'll have a play around.
They'll have a play around, after maybe a week or two, that they've managed to exfiltrate, and then eventually get to encrypting your systems, for example. I can't remember the exact stats, you probably know, but if you look at how quick adversaries are now getting onto exploiting a vulnerability, getting onto your network, exfiltrating and encrypting everything. It's something silly, like within a day or something, or half a day or something. It's crazy.
What we're seeing now, more than anything, from an incident response perspective, is they'll get in from an initial access perspective, and you can see them get, okay, they've logged in from that IP. It's a VPN, or it's, some country that company doesn't operate in, and that's your first tell. And this is all from an incident response perspective. This is all that we see in the investigation afterwards. They're not generally cyber customers at the time, so you don't have all of those wonderful tools and automation in place to spot and alert and contain. But what you tend to see is that single point of, okay, I'm in, and that's just the script getting in, and then nothing. Absolutely nothing, no movement for about a week, and then someone will jump on who's obviously a human and will do exactly what you've just said and just rip through it in a day or a couple of days, depending on how big it is, But
and even though they're needed by scripts,
gone are the days where it's okay, I'll have a low and slow approach. I'll do this and that. It's just bang. Here's my ODAP queries to look for sensitive shares or whatever I want to look for in terms of the crown jewels, as it were. I'm going to take that, I'm going to package it all, then I'm going to ship it out via mega.nz, or I'm going to do something. Oh, look, I can turn off the antivirus. I'll turn that off and I'll encrypt, and away we go. It's on a leak site in a few days, and here we are. They've got to deleting backups in Azure now. They've got to, and that's where immutable backups comes in. So for every poison, there is a cure, but it's turning that bloody cure on in the first place. So that, it's great for us to talk about this stuff, but if our clients or even potential clients or whoever out there doesn't know that it even exists, or doesn't know that it's been configured, or doesn't know that it's an additional defense in-depth control that they've put in, then it's not going to be there. And if it's not there when the horse is bolted, then it's not going to work. I mean, we talk about Gen AI, and Gen AI is the same. It's the ultimate bloody buzzword of the year. It is here to stay. I've attended a fair few conferences now with professors of universities to bloody private sector and all the rest of it, saying, these new attacks are coming in. It's been more widely adopted from a productivity perspective, which I think is great. But where are the guardrails? Where are the actions against the new attacks that are coming in? Which is something we want to talk about. But then it's about leveraging. We've got, what's it called? Is it Worm GPT?
Worm GPT,
antithesis of what we see from a chat GPT perspective. It's been used to pretty much, and this is the biggest thing for me, and that when we talk about good or evil, it's just a tool, but that tool can now be used by people with lower skill to craft more sophisticated attacks to launch against customers. So we've seen a real uptick in this, in instant responses, in more advanced attacks, and being like, bloody hell, this is more advanced than you generally see. It's not. It's just been packaged by an AI.
Definitely, I mean, even if you think about the more simpler things like phishing emails, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a lot more. Well, you could tell a phishing email a mile out because of spelling mistakes and grammatical errors and things. Whereas now, even a good tool like ChatGPT can be used. I know they put guardrails in place, but ChatGPT or that there's Llama and stuff you can load up on your machine locally and have it craft a phishing email for you. And very, very convincing stuff as well. I've seen some samples out there, and they're pretty convincing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of my concerns in terms of people using these tools to craft more attacks, not even just in quantity, but in sophistication, where the companies that used to be, okay, we may not have a cyber service, for example, but we know our users know about phishing emails. Okay, great. They know about a standard of phishing emails that they may report or they may delete or whatever. But now new tools are being used to craft more sophisticated, advanced phishing emails that are going to go undetected, or are going to daisy chain the URL so it's not picked up instantly and flagged as a malicious URL straight away, which means that even in that dwell time, a user customer might click that. And those are the sort of things that you think, well, I don't think we're prepared for that as a company or organization, country, to say that on a
As a
wider
world,
scale,
yeah.
that's what we're going to be up against, and we're already up
Yeah.
against it. And that's why we're seeing that uptick in attacks and all the rest of it. And that's why, I mean, we look at Gen AI and Littlefish, again, mildly shameless plug. We're creating our own Gen AI platform to build that off the fact that we want to use it for good, in that we want to use it for incident classification, and not to classify that straight away, but to look at the context of those alerts, look at the assets and the entities and the behaviors and previous tickets, and start to derive, okay, what's the probability I want to put this at in terms of, is it a true positive, non-positive, or false positive? Now, you're not going to have that automatically remediate that alert, but again, it's all about making our analysts quicker, leaner, faster. If we can turn to an analyst and say, at the end of the day, you can look at this alert, and AI, automation, machine learning, whatever your buzzword is, has allowed you to garner more information or more context quicker. Why wouldn't we? And I think that's where from a security perspective, Gen AI is going to come into it. I think the off-the-shelf solutions at the moment aren't quite there. And I think they will be in true fashion. Give it a year or two and they'll get there. But I think if we're looking at what we need now, it needs to be, how are we going to leverage that? Again, like we said, we relate to the party with automation, relate to the party with Gen AI in a malicious format.
Yeah,
we need to balance that now and bring in Gen AI to work for us from a security perspective that isn't just, okay, do you want me to isolate this device? We can do that with automation. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't need to cover that. What we need is something that is going to go above and beyond automation as an additional layer to give us that context. And it could even be, we've scanned your environment and we found that you're lacking in X rules for X part of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. We're going to create those for you based off your log sources at X. And again, this is the use cases that we're putting forward to say, well, this is the sort of intelligence that you want to use to hopefully make us better.
I think it's a very good point. When you bring automation in, you end up with gaps. And it's usually the gaps where human thinking is involved. Back to that again, right? Let's say, for example, your incidents are automated and it's looking at things, that's benign, that's a true positive, whatever. But automation doesn't have a brain. It just churns through things for you in a very efficient manner. If you have an analyst that's working, and we remember this from our analyst days, right? You're working on tickets and you notice, you know what, this customer's gone a little noisy today, or I remember looking at this and that, and something might actually be happening here with said customer. Or are these two incidents related or linked? Maybe they are. Let's take a look at that. And that's the sort of stuff that you can't, or is very difficult to achieve that level of thinking with automation. I think that's where Gen AI comes in as well. So one of the things we're working on is an AI that has access to incidents and such, not full incident data, but metadata, enough for it to understand what's going on in an environment and come back and say, actually, I've seen this, and this. It's working across this MITRE ATT&CK framework from what we can see. I reckon this is worth your attention. Here's a new ticket with all of the information I've got bundled up together. That sort of stuff. And that's going to bring benefit not just to automated, but even to manual SOCs as well, that sort of stuff. Because even within a manual SOC, you're not going to have an analyst per customer. It's the only way you're going to get full coverage to understand exactly what's going on in the customer's environment. You'd have multiple analysts working, and you might just end up in the perfect cocktail of the different analysts working on the different incidents, able to have enough visibility or information to put it together and understand something big is happening here.
Yeah.
Whereas Gen AI, Whereas Gen AI could jump in and say, hey, based on what we've seen over this period of time, we reckon something interesting is actually happening here. Go take a look.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's kind of there is no silver bullet in cybersecurity. We all know that, just because you put a SIEM in place or an EDR solution and you go, oh, we're covered. That's not how it works. It's mitigation. It's not complete elimination. Yeah. So if we can bring in automation to cover X and machine learning, UABA, whatever we want to, go into on there to cover kind of anomaly detection, which will cover Y, and then Gen AI to cover Z, then happy days. These are all tools that we're just leveraging to fulfill a certain purpose. If we think that Gen AI or automation or any of those can do all of that in one go, then no, we're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
That's where we need to be a bit more laser focused on. Let's be realistic in the tools that we're bringing in and why we're bringing them in. Because I think and I've seen it time and time again with companies where they will take a solution that's fit for a particular purpose, and they will bastardize that solution to the point that it is unrecognizable and sort of does some of the stuff that they want it to, but doesn't do the other stuff as well anymore. And it's all of that sort of stuff that you think, okay, this is through your fault. This is not through the solution's fault at the end of the day.
So, Sean, tell me why you're so passionate about automation.
So I think why am I so passionate? I think we've kind of, like we've discussed, it's because we're threading that automation through our processes, not just one, hopefully not just one. We're threading it through our business processes, our cyber alert incident processes, anything that we can possibly do to alleviate the pressure on our teams. Cybersecurity is an incredibly stressful position to be in, job-wise. And the burnout rate, people talk about, oh, there's so many jobs going in cybersecurity and all the rest of it. It's because the burnout rate is just insane for new people coming into the industry. So whatever we can do to alleviate that to the point where we can give them that time for the training and the mentoring that we spoke about, then even better. And even better than that, gone are the days now, like you were saying, where you would have hours, days to react to an incident. It's now, right, the threat actors got in. They've got in at this level from a permissions perspective. They've now escalated to X perspective. We're in trouble here. What are we going to do? Now, if we can automate containment through stages of the kill chain, for example, why wouldn't we? It's and again, it's based off risk appetite. There's that whole versus, okay, do you want to wait for the threat actor to do X and Y so you can see what they're trying to do? In a real world situation, I don't think customers are generally happy if you would let a threat actor move around a network. So, that automated containment and that automation in general allows us to do that. Do we want to contain in 30 minutes or do we want to contain in 7 seconds?
Yeah.
I know which one I would prefer because that containment is the breathing room to carry out a follow investigation, to look at a wider investigation and go, okay, are we covering all bases? Have they established persistence within the network that we don't know about and all of that sort of stuff? But we've got that breathing room because of automation.
For me, it's far deeper. For me, it's personal. So I'm a creature of habit. You probably know the show like things to happen in a specific way, in a specific manner. And I'm also a sucker for efficiency. I want things to be as efficient as possible. To the point where I've got so many automations running at home. Like the front door, I just tell Google to open it or use my phone or something like that. And the wife always says, "Oh, you're just lazy." And I'm not lazy. I'm efficient. But I'm a sucker for efficiency, and I'm a creature of habits. And you put those two together, and automation's the obvious answer. But the main reason I love passionate about automation is I see the value it brings to people, and not just the smile on their faces. Oh, you've made my job so much easier. This would have required me to go to and have conversations with 2 or 3 different people and then wait around for X amount of times, whereas now it's just done, right? But it's more about seeing people grow because of the efficiencies you've brought in, because of the automation you've brought in. And it's like you say, if you put it in a SOC perspective, it is more time to do training, more time to go onto courses, more time to learn new things or understand a part of the business that you want to think about better. But even if you zoom outside of the SOC and just look at the business in general, it is more time for people to get on with other jobs that they enjoy doing. It's not getting bogged down filling forms in or going through the same process over and over again every single time you've got a new customer, for example, or every single time you have to have this new engagement, for example. It's about taking all the painful, repetitive stuff out, so you can get on with the more interesting parts of things.
No, I think you're bang on.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's you get a enjoyment over seeing, okay, yeah, the team were up against it a little bit. We brought in this piece of in automation here. That's not only the client you can see happier, but also your own team. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Are we becoming too dependent on automation and technology? And what happens if these systems fail or are hacked? So are we becoming too dependent on technology and automation? And
too dependent on technology is a wider socio kind of question.
Yeah, you tell me one person without a smartphone now.
We're quite ready to tackle that piece yet, but generally speaking, I think are we too compliant on or complacent on automation? I would say no, we should be. No, we shouldn't be. But like, we should be at a point where we could at least be too complacent. I don't think we're even there where it's adopted as much. Or as much as it should be. I think eventually when we kind of reach that critical mass, for want of a better word, there is going to be listen, this automation isn't here to do everything for you. It's an enrichment. You know, it's a tool, like we've always said. Don't expect, just because something's been auto-contained doesn't mean you found the root cause. You know?
Exactly, yeah.
So just be wary and mindful that because you see automation's kicked in, great, automation's kicked in. It doesn't mean your job's done. It means that there was work to do, not as much work to do.
Yeah,
you know,
your job's easier now.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's important. I think we can. Hopefully, we will get there. I don't see. You talk to. I've been around the block from an MSSP perspective for a while now. I mean, I build SOCs and MSSPs up. That's my job at the end of the day. And I speak to a lot of people who talk about, we're doing AI or we're doing automation. Oh, what are you doing? And it just fizzles out. So I think when everyone says, oh yeah, it's everywhere, Gen AI is everywhere, and from a security perspective, and automation is everywhere from a security perspective. Yeah, but not a lot of people are actually picking it up. And a lot of people are saying they are because they feel it's a nice buzzword to use. And frankly, that's a wider discussion with what's wrong with our industry as a whole. But, that's where the complacency is going to come in, where people are selling a snake oil, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah.
And there are organizations out there that do that. But, what happens when it goes wrong? I mean, that's why we have the human factor, right? That's why if something fails out or something is misdiagnosed, we still need to, it is a tool, we still need to feed and water and like we would with a SIEM and tuning, like you discussed, because we've got automation doesn't mean we should ignore tuning or, carrying out threat hunting engagements across the estates and all the rest of it. So it's those sort of things that we look at and say, well, okay, well, we always have and you fall back to it and you go, okay, this is our process and this is what we've automated. But as long as you can still do it manually, you have your business continuity. If that's the case, if your platform goes down or that particular, you know what it's like, API changes or Microsoft decides to update something and not tell anyone, and suddenly you're you're wondering why all of your automation suddenly broke, and you're getting 50 error messages per second. But it's those sort of things that you go, okay, you can just go to the team and say, right, guys, we're failing over to X. we've had this in plan or process for a while, so you guys keep cracking on, and we're going to sort the automation just as you would if a scene broke or you couldn't get to a DDR portal or something like that. It's no different with automation or Gen AI, machine learning, or whatever the hell we want to talk about. In that, again, just don't become over reliant on it. If your entire infrastructure is built on a single point of failure, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Have redundancies in place would be my 2 cents.
It reminds me of that diagram from XKCD's got an illustration, which is like the entire internet, and then one piece of code being maintained by some random user on GitHub, holding everything up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, and I hate to say it, but like everyone thinks about enterprise solutions and all the rest of it, and then Log4j comes out and everyone's sweating. It happens. So it's those sort of things that everyone talks a good game. It's the people who are actually doing the do that are the people you want to keep hold of. And I think that speaks for our industry as a whole, to be honest.
I think that question as well, what happens if these systems fail or hacked, I think is more of a case of when. What happens when these systems fail? Because you're going to have failures. And again, I'd say people fall sick. Automation goes offline or goes wrong. It's like a similar thing. It's just the impact of it is far more felt because of the pace at which automation can go through things, or just because it's taken that pain away from you and suddenly you're feeling it again. If you look at it from that perspective, though, what happens when these systems fail or when they are hacked? I kind of take that approach to any sort of automation I'm building or any sort of process I'm looking at is what happens if this part fails?
Yeah.
I think always keep that in mind when you're building your automations. You don't want to build them in a way that they're super dependent on another part of it working, although that's not avoidable in many occasions. You're going to build them in ways that if it fails, people know about it straight away. You've thought about if this has failed, like if automation's failed midway through an investigation, it can fail and then done. Right? Nothing happens. The incident is in work in progress by automation and no one's none the wiser. You think about addressing these, just like we have BCP testing for infrastructure and within IT and processes and stuff like that. What's your BCP for your automation when it fails? Not when it fails to run completely, but when it fails to trigger, when it's running and it fails halfway through, or when it's almost finished and it fails. It's trying to carry out that last action and that bit fails. So what do you do in these situations? Think about it, and you got to build these contingencies in place. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's the same with any business risk or cybersecurity risk that you have within your organization. That's why we have business continuity and BCDR as a whole and all the rest of it. It needs to be okay. If you have a reliance upon this infrastructure or solution or whatever, you better have thought about what you're going to do if it's not there.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, and that's where like different geographical location. Like we've got 2 SOCs, like we've got one in Sheffield, one in Nottingham, and that's because that alleviates a lot of the headaches from the BCDR policy for us. Doesn't alleviate all of them though, because we use cloud infrastructure. Got 9 times out of 10. So it's like, okay, well, what happens if a certain EDR platform ends up bricking part of the Microsoft infrastructure? Like what do you do then? You can't do, what can you do?
Half the SOC take a day off because a lot of machines aren't working right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Oh, I think half the world took the day off. But these are all solid questions. And joking aside, a lot of people recovered quickly, and the response to resolve those issues was quick and effective. And these things can happen to anyone at the end of the day. Like we are most certainly not immune to this. But it's what are your checks? What are your processes? What are your backups? It's all those things to make sure that hopefully you can mitigate that happening. You will never fully eliminate it.
Just one last thing really is like when things go wrong, don't be scared to do it again. Learn from your mistakes. Deal with it, learn from your mistakes, put something in so it don't happen again. Simple. Move on.
Nobody's infallible. Nobody's infallible. You learn through, and this is why you dev the hell out of something, and then you pre-prod the hell out of something before it even gets to prod, because you want to make sure that you are not in a position where these things are happening day one. But if something were to happen, you've got the expertise, you've got the processes and procedures and everything to back it up, and that's the most important thing.
Solid words of wisdom. Right, so to wrap things up, tell us about some of the stuff you're looking forward to. Feel free to plug Littlefish, because you guys are doing some awesome work.
I mean, Littlefish have had and again, I'm not shamelessly plugging myself too much, but in my tenure at Littlefish, we've had quite a monumental organic growth in our cyber division. All of that is down to me. No, I'm joking. All of that is down to the SOC managers and the service delivery managers and the security analysts that we have in place, because they are the passionate, committed individuals that are delivering these services at the end of the day. So I'm most looking forward to having another great year where we started with 10 people. We're now at just short of 50, and that was in a year. That's in the space of a year that we've done that. So that kind of organic growth is really important to me. Only not from partly from we've grown perspective for a revenue and margin perspective, but also we get to bring in all these new people and we get to do all of this new exciting things like build incident response teams and build CTI teams and get involved with obviously, another one of my passions is OT in terms of operational technology and what are we doing there, and that's a conversation from a larger scale. This isn't just what a Littlefish going to be doing. It's what should we be doing as a country to protect CNI, and frankly, we're not ready yet, are we? So that's why we're pushing to really focus in those sort of areas. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about OT. I'm excited about how we leverage Gen AI and automation. I'm excited about having another really good year so we can bring in even more people and more security professionals, and because that's the biggest part. And I joke that I'm a ex-techie, but the one of my biggest enjoyments now is getting these people in and actually seeing them grow and be as passionate as I was when I was a tier 1 analyst, so that's really important for me, realistically, and I think that's most exciting for Littlefish as a whole.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our discussion on cybersecurity automation, and hopefully there's some insights you can take back with you and implement into your own cyber strategy. A big thank you to our guest, Sean Tickle, for sharing his expertise. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network. And don't forget to check out our website at www.cloudguard.ai, where you can find more resources and stay updated on future episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so feel free to reach out on social media or through our website. Links to everything will be in the show notes. And finally, a shout out to producer Jen for bringing this episode to life. Until next time.